Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to EXE 2025. It's time to dive into another one of our exciting parts of our journey. Today, we have with our special guest, Mr. Suresh Peiris, an innovation, passionate innovator, and a tech leader who's making waves in the industry. Suresh is the co-founder of Inforwaves and Articon.io, two ventures that embody creativity, problem solving, and forward thinking. With his deep expertise in game development and Google's developer technologies, he has been empowering teams and community to build next level experiences. Today, he's here to take us on a journey titled Power Up Your Game, a deep dive into Google's developer tech. So get ready to explore the tools, insights, and strategies that can help you supercharge your game development journey. Please join me in warmly welcoming Suresh Peiris to the stage. Suresh, the stage is yours.
Hi, thank you very much, committee, for having me here. And yeah, so as the introduction says, I'm Suresh Peiris, and I'm the co-founder of Inforwaves and Articum.io, as well as I'm community lead of GDG Sri Lanka. And yeah, that's a bit of my background. So today I'm going to here talk about an unusual topic that I usually talk about, but let's get things going. And we have an interesting topic to talk about, especially when it comes to game development. And yeah, let's see how it goes. All right, I hope my screen is visible. Right, so today we are going to talk about the Google's developer technologies for game development. So I know that all of you are game developers, and sometimes we might have application developers here as well. And we might have people who are interested in cloud computing as well as machine learning and from different backgrounds. But today I'm trying to cater this presentation and the workshop to address different backgrounds we have over here. But before I get things started, let me get a quick feedback from all of you just to see the background you all are from. Can I see a raise of hands? Can I see a raise of Zoom hands? Those who are like cloud, those who have a cloud background, just to see, so that then I can properly align these topics towards you all as well. Can I see a raise of hands on Zoom? Those who have a cloud background. All right, great. Right, couple of people. Those who have worked on any sort of a AI kind of application, can I see a raise of hands? Great. All right. Those who have worked with Firebase? All right. Okay. Couple of people. So somewhere around like 4 to 5 in each question. But today I have a special lineup of content to be discussed, especially when it comes to multiple areas that a lot of game developers might not be aware about, and some mistakes that you all might have been doing over the couple of years. And I want to correct those. And please pay attention to the whole presentation because we have a lot of content to be discussed. So I'm trying to make the content align towards multiple backgrounds we have here. Anyway, let's get things started. Right. So before I dive in, let me quickly talk about what Google has in their table in terms of the game develop for the game developers actually, right? So Google has something called Google for Games, which is dedicated ecosystem for game developers. It's not only for game developers, even for application developers, even for cloud developers, even for machine learning developers, right? This sort of ecosystem, Google caters to a wide variety of a background. So they have something called Google Developer Ecosystem. They have open source Git repository that y'all can check it out. It's called Google for Games. It has multiple other repositories, multiple open source initiatives as well that y'all can try out, as well as y'all can see what sort of initiatives they have given, right? So today, during this workshop, our objective is to understand what sort of Google technologies we have in terms of game development, as well as how these technologies can be applied into the practical scenarios that you all might find difficult, as well as let's see what sort of existing technologies that you all might be using at the moment to build your games. So as a third point, I'll be talking about the steps of publishing your game on Play Store. So I'll be giving a low priority for that because I know it's a generic topic to talk about, and I'm trying to make it very specific for game developers on how you all can get your game published on Google Play Store and what sort of criterias you all have to look at when you're publishing a game on Play Store. Anyway, during this workshop, feel free to, unmute yourself and raise your questions straight away to me so I can clarify if there's anything that you all have. So feel free to do so. Right. So why Google, right? So you all might be thinking, okay, today we are going to look at a massive ecosystem, right? It's not only for Android, it's including web applications also. It's including web games and desktop games as well as many other types of games. But talking about Android in specific, right? Because we are looking at Google technologies and for sure we had looked at Android as well. Android reach has a 3 billion reach, so which is the highest demand that we have in terms of, especially for mobile game developers. Android has the highest demand at the moment when compared to iOS and Android. Android has the highest demand for mobile game developers, so it has a large ecosystem as well. And Google is keeping on developing multiple frameworks, multiple solutions, targeting different sorts of developer groups and different sorts of levels of developers, to be honest. And yeah, let's see what sort of tools we have in hand. Right. So we are going to talk about why Google Cloud for game developers, because this is really important. Some people might feel like, okay, we're here to learn something about games, right? Why are we talking about cloud here, right? So I know that you all might have built multiplayer games, right? Have you ever thought of what sort of underlying layer of a multiplayer games that you have, right? So when it comes to multiplayer games, it can have very complicated layer of um, data processing layer, as well as there can be very complicated layer of data processing and the backends and streaming services, right? So today we are going to study what sort of Google Cloud solutions we have, and in terms of game development as well as streaming of different types of services. Let's see. So point number one, the global reach. So we know that GCP is one of the most popular cloud platforms that is there in the global space. So it's very easy to use, and we have so GCP has a very interactive and user-friendly interface where we can deploy our servers very easily without putting much technical effort. That's number one. And it has a global reach also. See, for an example, let's say if you're looking at deploying on any region, right, including Asian region, that could be European region, that could be a US region, right? So GCP has servers spread around the world, right? So it has a global reach as well. See, depending on the specification, depending on adhering to the data protection acts that is there around the world, GCP has the capability to tackle any sort of issues, any sort of geographical boundaries, and yeah, things like that. Point number two, scalability, right? So right now, let's say as an individual game developer, I know that a lot of people are thinking about the prototype level games, right? But if you think about a company like Ubisoft or some other company, right? Steam, right? Those sort of platforms are there. Those are being utilized by millions of people at a given time, right? So have you ever thought of what sort of online technology that they are using to serve their games globally while maintaining a high uptime with their servers? So today we are going to look at, okay, how we can build scalable games, how we can build scalable backends, especially for multiplayer games, as well as for a game that could have the potential of scaling up into a very wider scope. Point number three, reliability. So Google Cloud is a very reliable platform, and especially to mention that Google Cloud has one of the best support services I have ever experienced compared to AWS and Microsoft Azure. Even the real-time chat support and the agent support is there. So reliability wise, yes, it has a high reliability of support as well as high performance is guaranteed, and especially the GPU servers are also provided. Starting from last month itself, Google has started providing GPU servers also. So that sort of advantages are there. So anyway, let's explore these services one by one. So, like I mentioned earlier, if there's any questions that you would like to that you would like to clarify, feel free to use the chat section, and I can definitely answer any questions during the during the Q&A as well as during the session itself. I can answer any of these questions. Right. So let's study more about it, right? So one thing we mentioned about, okay, the global reach and scalability and the reliability, and these sort of points we already discussed. And GCP is not just a cloud platform, right? GCP is a collection of multiple products. For an example, can I see a raise of hands, those who have heard about this service called GKE, Google Kubernetes Engine? Can I see a raise of hands? Okay, great. Right, one person. So that's great. So anyway, we all are here to learn. So I'll explain what Kubernetes is in the futures in the further slides. Anyway, so GCP is not just a one product platform. It has multiple services. It has something called GKE, the Google Kubernetes Engine, which is more like a scalable engine. See, for an example, like I mentioned earlier, the same case study of Steam and Ubisoft. They are building games that is capable of allocating like thousands of millions of maybe billions of users at a given time, right? So it has to have the scalability. When the traffic goes up, the service has to scale, right? When the traffic goes down, the service has to scale down. So there has to be some sort of a scaling mechanism, as well as there has to be data protection and uptime guaranteeing and multiple other functionalities, right? So GCP has solutions for all of these scaling purposes of the game, the game backends and things like that. So one more interesting service is that in GCP, we have another service called Google Cloud Storage. For an example, let's say if you're storing any sort of users metadata, maybe profile pictures, maybe some sort of activity data, right? GCP has a service called Google Cloud Storage that we can easily use to store information of the users within the GCP cluster. And so that sort of storage. So you don't have to worry about storing it within your own servers. So GCP has the capability for that sort of services. And the other thing is that GCP has databases. So sometimes you might have to store relational information, non-relational information. So GCP has multiple databases. For an example, they have Postgres databases, they have caching databases, and they have very scalable databases. So depends on the requirement you all have. GCP has the capability of adapting to your requirement and delivering the best solution that I can guarantee. Right. Okay. And one more important thing is that very recently, I think starting from from this year's Google I/O event, they have started giving GPU access for public actually, right? So if you require GPUs, that has to be there for game serving and backend processing. Now they give GPUs for public as well. Earlier, it used to be limited for a very limited crowd for enterprises and some other paid customers. But right now, they have started giving GPUs for public as well. Especially, they have targeted the LLMs, the large language models, and AI actually. But I'm pretty sure not just the AI community, the game development community is going to be benefited because they have start giving for public also. So because of that, it's a massive advantage that everyone would have at the moment. Right. So today we are going to talk about four important things, agons and GKE, right? So first of all, I'll talk about what is GKE, right? So GKE is known as the Google Kubernetes Engine, which is a scalable platform where we can um, deploy backends, and deploy any sort of web applications that you wanted. So it's basically a scalable engine. So what it actually does, right? So think about a game that is being utilized by millions of people. And the same example I mentioned earlier with regard to Ubisoft and Steam, right? it has to cater to billions of people, right? So just think about, I'll just keep that example aside. Just think about when you get the yellow results, right? You just log into the Department of Examination website, and what happens? The server starts freezing, right? That's because the server has not been properly optimized for a scaling purpose, right? So same thing could happen to your game as well, right? If you don't plan for the scaling, right? If you just plan for a few customers, maybe like 10 or 5 customers, or maybe yourself, what's going to happen is when your game scales up, when the game scales for a massive audience, for massive multiplayer options, the server is going to freeze and no one is going to be able to play your game, right? So that's the issue that we had to tackle first of all, and we had to come up with the architecture that solves this particular issue, right? So we have this product called GKE, Kubernetes Engine. It's not only for Google Cloud Platform. It's there in all the platforms available. It's an open source. It's an open source thing. Kubernetes is an open source framework that you all can use to build scalable applications and to automate deployments also. And it's there on AWS and Azure and any cloud platform you name it is available. But for Google Cloud Platform, they have a dedicated managed service called GKE, which has the main purpose of scaling an application on top of Google Cloud Service. Right. So now let me talk about something called agons, right? So agons is actually a game backend for multiplayer games, basically, right? So have you ever thought of, okay, when you're building multiplayer games, there could be multiple interactions, right? Sometimes you might have to track their positions. Sometimes you might have to track their actions, behaviors, and the scoring points, leaderboard points, right? Things like that. So how do you do that actually? So I'm pretty sure that most of this audience who are here might be using a relational database, more like a MySQL database or like a real-time database or something like that. But when it comes to scaling, that's not the right way to go ahead with, right? I'm pretty sure, but there are some other open source game backends as well. But from Google side, we have an interesting game backend called Agons, right? It's a scalable and open source framework. It's an open source backend that anyone could use to build scalable backend. So I'll quickly go through their Git repository and I'll show you how to deploy that sort of Agons backend on GCP. So let me quickly show you that. Right. I hope my screen is visible again. Right. So basically, Agons is, like I mentioned earlier, it's a scalable backend service that can operate on any sort of Kubernetes server, Kubernetes cluster. Like I mentioned earlier, it's platform independent. So regardless of whether you use Google Cloud Platform or whether you use Azure or AWS, you can use this to build a very solid game backend. So as you can see, these sort of companies, even Ubisoft and all sort of companies, like very popular game development companies, are using the Agons backend for their game as their game backend. So basically, these are pretty good framework that you can use. So anyway, let me quickly go through their documentations, and I'll quickly go through their guide on how you all can set it up. Right. So if you go to the documentation, they have an option called install and configure Agons, and you can see there are multiple architectures they have proposed here basically. See, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to test it locally, they have that capability also. You can use this as a Docker container. So if you go to the installation section, there are multiple ways that you can deploy. See, you can even deploy this as a Docker container in your local machine. So in case if you want to try this out locally, you have that capability also, right? So if you can see in the sidebar, they have something called Minikube, right? So Minikube is actually a local version of Kubernetes, right? If you don't have the GCP access, if you don't have credits to spend for GCP, Minikube can be a really great platform to get things started. Basically, Minikube is actually like a local version of Kubernetes that you all can try out Kubernetes deployments on building scalable backends, right? So here, if you go to this particular website of Minikube, I can share. At the end of the slide deck, at the end of the workshop, I'll provide you with all these resources so that you all can try it out later as well. So Minikube is actually, like I said, it's a single node Kubernetes cluster that you all can set up on your local machine, and that supports all Linux, macOS, and Windows. All sorts of binaries are supported. And from this website, you can download and install Minikube, right? And then along with the Minikube start command, you can start the cluster, and then you all sorted with the Minikube setup, right? So that means, okay, your machine has the local environment to test this out, and then do whatever the local integration. And then later on, once you're completed with the development of the standalone backend, you can push that into cloud operation. So that sort of thing can be done with Minikube. But it's a test environment. Always keep that in mind. It's a test environment. But later on, you can migrate the whole environment to something like GKE. So that's a possibility we have. Right. So after Minikube, the next thing is that with Agons, they have provided something called, okay, they have provided operator for Minikube actually. So as you can see, Agon has this thing called Agon's controller. So with this, you can easily set up and make the backend up and running on top of your Minikube cluster. Or even when it comes to GCP, you can easily deploy this platform as a platform on GCP as well. So if you can see under the Google Cloud, they have given the instructions, step-by-step instructions on how you can install this on top of the Google Cloud platform, where you can work this as a managed backend services. So as you can see with the Cloud in command and the installing command, you can basically you can set up the entire application against backend on top of GCP. Right. So I'll send this link to all of you. So then later on, you all can actually try this out, and yeah, you all can try this out later as well for your reference. I have just shared the link on the chat, so you all can see the step-by-step instructions on how you can set this up in your own cluster. Right. So I know that the next question that you'll have is, okay, let's say now I have my backend, right? My game server is up and running, right? So with this particular Agons framework, we can get game server up and running very easily, and it's scalable also, right? So even if you get 10 users, even if you get million users, the game server is scalable, 100% scalable, right? You don't have to worry about, okay, how do I make sure that if I get like millions of users, you don't have to worry about maintain the servers, because the scaling part is being automatically handled from GK, the Google Kubernetes engine itself. So you don't have to worry about building, like adding more resources, adding more specs to your machine, because that is automatically being handled. But here, you can easily deploy this and start working with it. The next point is that how do you integrate Agons with the popular game development frameworks? So Agons has a support for most of the game development frameworks such as Unity and even Unreal Engine. They have multiple supports. As you can see under the client SDKs, they have the support for Unity, Unreal Engine, and even if you're using any sort of third-party game development framework, they support that also. And so for Unity and Unreal Engine, they have the native SDK that you all can install and use. And here they have given the step-by-step instructions on how you can set it up and get it up and running. So it's open source game, it's open source multiplayer framework, and you can pass in data of the players and build it fully interactive. And even for Unreal Engine, they have their own SDK that you all can install and set it up. And with ease of use, you can build your own game server and get things started. So not only for these two things, we have the support for any other language, including C++, Go, C Sharp, Node.js. So even for Node.js, so even if you're using any sort of a open source framework to build games, so especially if you're building 3JS based games or anything like that, you can actually use the Node.js based library, especially for the 3JS kind of game developers. I know there are a lot of 3JS game developers here as well, because it's a very popular framework nowadays for building lightweight web games. Node.js library could be the ideal choice for 3JS developers to spin up their game server, and make it multiplayer. And yes, so let's see what sort of other capabilities we have right over here. So let me show you one more thing. If you want to find what sort of resources we have in terms of the Google Cloud Tech for game developers, there's a very popular library, there's a very popular Git repository. As you can see, there's a repository called Google for Games. I can share that also with all of you. So this repository has multiple frameworks, multiple open source frameworks that anyone could use to build game backends and gaming services. So as you can see, there are so many that you all can try it out. And yeah. All right. So again, coming back to my presentation, I'm not sure if my presentation is shared. Let me try it out once again. I think the organizers might have to give me access to share my whole screen. Can someone make me a co-host, please? Right. Okay. That's fine. I think Zoom has a limitation. Okay. It only shares the. Let me see. Okay. That's fine. Right. I hope my screen is visible again. Right. So this is basically about icons once again. So in my slide deck, okay, as you can see, we are developing a session-based game. Okay, let's say a first-person shooter kind of games. Okay. So what you all can do is basically package your dedicated game as a Docker container, right? Docker container means it's basically contain. If you want to deploy your applications on cloud platforms, you can. It's more like a packaging kind of thing, right? Let's say if you are building an application, if you want to ship it to someone else, or a server, or a third-party person, we have something a package manager called a packaging mechanism called Dockerization, right? It's not exactly a packaging mechanism, but we can call it as an imaging mechanism, right? So we can package the application and we can make a Docker container, and we have something called Agon's fleet to manage a pool of game servers. Basically, it's a scalable set of game servers. Actually, like I said before, if you want to make sure that your application scales up very rapidly, you can use their set of game servers to make sure that your application is scaling. And yeah, let's have a look at an example on how it being utilized in practical scenario. So then later on, you all can actually see how it works in real life scenario as well, right? So this is a matchmaker game, right? It's a multiplayer game. As you can see, that could be something like 8-ball pool, or something like a shooter game, one first-person shooter game, or something like that, right? So you all can think about any possible scenario, but I'm just trying to address this in a very generic way, right? So first of all, there are two players here, the player number one and player number two, and we can have an algorithm where we had a matchmaker, right? So as you can see, Agon's controller supports a matchmaking mechanism also. For an example, let's say if you want to match a player with another player, there has to be a matchmaking controller. So Agons has multiple controllers also. So along with the SDK they have provided, they have the matchmaking controller that you all can reuse, and you all can be paired with another person. And then the entire resources are deployed on top of the GKE servers, the Google Kubernetes Engine servers, on top of Google Cloud Platform. And as you can see, these are the fleet of game servers we have. So like I mentioned earlier, even if it's million of users, based on the scale that we have over here in the game fleet, you can handle scaling automatically, and you can predefine the set of replicas that you all can have, and the maximum number of replicas that the game servers can scale up to. And that sort of a scalable architecture can be formed when you are developing scalable games. So this is all about Agons. And before I move forward to the next part of this workshop, can I see if you all have any questions I would like to answer? So I think that would make it more clear, because I know that there are certain complicated technical terms that I might be using that you might not be familiar with. So feel free to get it clarified immediately, so then I can quickly move forward and go back and forth and answer your clarifications. Can I see if there's any questions? Right, so we have one question. Does Google provide free VMs, virtual machines? Right. So good question actually. So GCP platform, Google Cloud Platform has a free trial version, which is there for 3 months. You can use it for 3 months, and they're offering you somewhere around 300 USD for a consumer account. And if you sign with a academic account or a university account or a corporate account, they give you somewhere around 400 USD for a period of 3 months, right? So with that allowance, you all can try the whole platform, and you all can build a sample application also. That sort of possibilities are totally there with GCP that you all can try out. Do you have any question? All right. Okay. Okay. We have a question. What is the Dhamma sign on the corner on the box? Right, right. Okay. Good question. I think, right. So it's a logo of Kubernetes actually. So if you haven't heard of it, the one I mentioned is the logo of Kubernetes, the scalable platform that you all can build applications and deploy applications. So that's the logo of it basically. So what I meant by that is basically, okay, you are deploying the whole game server on top of Kubernetes, then it can freely scale up and down. Even it can scale up to a millions of users. So it's a scalable platform. It's not only for games, but for anything. But Agons is only for games, it's a specified platform for games itself. But Kubernetes is a very generic platform that is being used by like a millions of users worldwide. Even popular companies like Google, Facebook, and even you name it, any company, Sri Lankan, even Sri Lanka, right? Most of the companies are being used Kubernetes to make sure the application is scalable, right? So that's the logo of it. I hope that's clear, right? Right. Okay. So shall we move forward to the next segment? Great. All right. So the next case study is that, okay, so now we have backend, right? We have a scalable backend that you all can try out with any platform, with Unity, with Unreal Engine, C Sharp, Node.js, what you name it, whatever framework you all have a very scalable backend in hand. So the next case study is that saving data, right? So we know that, okay, when you're building a game, it's all about data, right? We should store the level information, we should store the user's points, we should store their coordinates, the interactivity, and the levels they have completed, and maybe their positions, things like that. So how do you save the data? I know a lot of people are using services such as WebSocket services to store the information, communicate the information through the internet. And some people are using like MySQL services, and some people are using Postgres databases, and some people are using Firebase databases to store the information of the points of the users that people have captured during a game level. But there are better solutions than that, right? So we have something called Open Saves. Open Saves is actually another Google product that anyone could use to anyone could use it as a storage server for your own game. It's a storage server actually that can handle any type of data, right? It could be like a real-time information. So sometimes, I mean, when it comes to a game, we can consider multiple data types, right? We can consider like there can be real-time information, there can be like non-real-time information. For an example, if you take real-time information, that could be like a position of the player, the coordinates. That could be like a shooting time, right? That could be like some sort of simulation. So those sort of things can be known as a real-time data. But there are some sort of non-real-time data also. For an example, maybe the leaderboard, maybe the let's say the previous levels that the user has completed. So those can be known as the non-real-time information. But how do you store this information is what matters at the end. But here also we have to think about, okay, if you are building scalable games, what sort of solutions we have, and how we can scale up further, right? So let's take this scenario, the example scenario I have given, right? Let's let's imagine you're building a game for Android or maybe iOS or PC, right? So you are saving the game state later on, and then once you restart the game itself, it should automatically start from the place that you have already stopped, right? So that could be known as a scenario. So you have to store the game's information, you have to store the levels of the games, you have to store the points, the number of activities you had done, everything in a scalable server, right? So that can be known as a very practical scenario. So we have this client library called OpenSaves. It's a pretty good framework that works with Google Cloud Platform that you can use it as a scalable saving platform. But let me show you how we can utilize it on top of GCP also. Right. Okay. I hope my screen is visible again. Right. So it's a product of Google, and as you can see, as part of the Google for games, we have another repository called OpenSaves. This is also pretty good. It's a pretty good library, pretty good client library that you all can use to make sure that your content is being properly saved as game state. So this also can be known as a storage server that you can deploy on top of Kubernetes engine. Can be known it's a storage server, but it works with multiple other services of Google also. It works with Google Cloud Storage and Google Cloud Caching and multiple other services. So we'll go through that very in nutshell. I know some terms can be complicated, but right after the session, feel free to go through it. I'll provide the documentations. Feel free to go through it and see what sort of edge cases you all can address, because there are so many things that you all can actually address basically. So let's see. So I'm going to go back to my presentation once again. Right. So this is how it works. So as you can see, the Google Cloud Storage, Google Cloud Platform, GCP, has multiple services like I mentioned earlier. They have something called Cloud Memory Store. Memory Store is actually a very high-speed caching platform, caching protocol, which is there on GCP. That can be used as memory store actually. So see, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes, okay, when you're building games, there has to be memory information also, ongoing memory information, like concurrent real-time information. So those sort of information can be stored in a real-time high-speed caching protocol, which is known as memory store. And then we have something called Google Cloud Data Store, right? See, for an example, if you're storing any sort of structured information, so that could be like a MySQL kind of information, that could be Postgres kind of information. So if you're storing any sort of structured and non-real-time information, the data store can be a perfect solution for your requirement, because using data store, you can persist your information in any format you wanted. And that's number two. And then you have something called cloud storage. So apart from data, apart from text-based information, we have other information. That could be something like images, something like maybe something to do with the skins, right? Things like that has to be there. So those sort of information can be stored in the Google Cloud Storage bucket, and combining all together, right? So we know that it's a complicated process, right, to set up all of these things and to set up the memory stores and data stores and cloud storage. It can be a very complicated thing actually. So combining all three of these, GCP has built this thing called Cloud Saves, Open Saves actually. It's a combination of all of these: memory store, data store, and cloud storage. It utilizes all of these services, and they have built Open Saves, which is a really great product that you all can use to make sure to store your information on cloud. It's a great product that anyone could easily use. Right. Okay. So let's see if there's any questions you all have gotten. So far, there's no questions. All right. So the next point is that analytics, right? So this is also a really interesting point actually, right? So you all might be thinking, okay, so we discussed about, okay, building game servers, and we discussed about building storage servers for your games with open saves. And the next point is going to be analytics, right? So now that we have two things in hand, okay, we have the game server in hand, we have the storage server in hand. So how do you make sure we monitor the interaction with your game? Because for an example, let's say, okay, think about this particular practical scenario, right? Let's say we have multiple levels in your game. Let's say we have 5 levels, right? But there has to be some sort of a mechanism to see which levels are the most easiest ones and which levels has the most difficulty. And there has to be a mechanism to find out, okay, what points that users are skipping the difficulty of a particular level, right? So what if we can do the whole thing as a platform? So Google Analytics is known as a really great analytics platform um, for us to capture the users' information, especially when it comes to the level completions, when it comes to analytics, statistics, the ratios of completion, things like that can be done. And also, you all might have seen there are mobile games which has purchases, like sometimes you can add coins, sometimes you can add points, sometimes you can purchase skins, um, maybe like objects, things like that, right? But there has to be a way how we capture the user's interest in those sort of items, right? So Google Analytics is a really great platform. So it's a very popular platform also, not only for games. It's there for any sort of website, or even for websites, dashboards, or any sort of other applications, mobile applications. You can use analytics to capture the user's insights and to capture the user's analytics to see, okay, what sort of engagement points we have. So even for games, the same use case I have mentioned, especially when it comes to capturing the level completions, the item purchases, and the interest points, things like that can be fully automated with Google Analytics. So let's see what sort of capabilities we have with analytics and how we can easily set it up. Okay, just a second. Right. Okay. Perfect. So if you want to set up analytics, you all can actually use this service called Google Firebase. So Firebase has it's a very simplified version of all the complex Google products. It's a very user-friendly and beginner-friendly platform that you all can use complex Google services in your application. So if you go to Firebase, if you search for Firebase, you will see something like this, right? Firebase also has multiple products. If you're not familiar with, there are so many products that comes with Firebase, including analytics, including storage, databases, and multiple other aspects that you all can try out, and you all can build amazing applications. And also see if you're adding some sort of a authentication mechanism, maybe some sort of Google login or some sort of mobile application login or things like that. You can use Firebase to build that sort of interactions also. But anyway, let's go through it and see what sort of things we can do. Right, so I'm going to log into my console, and let's see. Okay, I'm going to my project. So you all can actually create a project on top of Firebase. You can create a number of projects, but within the limitation. And this is what you get in the Firebase dashboard. And as you can see, under the build, there has to be, okay, so under the analytics, there has to be something called dashboard, right? So here in the dashboard, we can see the full picture of how your users are interacting with your application, right? The number of levels they are completing, the number of purchases they are making, including their demographics. So you can even see their information such as their locations, sometimes their countries, sometimes their browsers. So things like that you can easily see in the map itself. You can just point out whatever the country wanted, and you can see what sort of interactivity they are doing along with your game. So those sort of things are possible with Google Firebase. But if you want to see advanced insights on how your users are interacting with your game, you can see there's something called there's option called View More in Google Analytics. So from this section, you can straight away go to Google Analytics and you can see detailed information on what sort of interactivity your users are doing in terms of the game interaction and event tracking, and a lot of things can be done when it comes to um, users insights perspective. You can do multiple things along with uh, Google Analytics and Firebase Analytics. So it's very easy to set up actually. So let me show you how you can set up on Unity or any sort of other framework also. So, so Firebase has the Unity framework, Unity SDK. As you can see, if you search for Firebase for Unity, you can see they have a framework, they have SDK actually. So you can just install the Firebase SDK on top of Unity project, and you can make sure that okay, the analytics are captured. And when it comes to analytics, there's an interesting concept called event tracking, right? So we had to register the events, the interesting events that you all have in your game. So that could be a purchase, that could be a level completion, that could be something like a point addition or something like that. So it depends on the different requirements and different use cases you all have. You all can decide, okay, which sort of events are we going to add. So things like that can be decided from your end, and you all can register those events, and automatically from this dashboard you can see how much of users are interacting in real time. You can see, okay, this much of players are there, and that the way they interact with the platform you can do. So let me share a small example. Let me tell you a small story, right? It's not about a game, but it's about a platform. So I heard the story from one of the co-founders of one of the Sri Lanka's largest e-commerce platforms. So I'm not going to mention the name. So they were saying, okay, when it started, they were having very less number of customers, right? So they had no idea, okay, how well their customers are interacting with our e-commerce platform. But they need to capture the information to see what sort of products they are checking out and why they are dropping out of the platform. Is it because of the price? Is it because of any sort of user experience issue? So they had to find out, okay, what exactly are the reasons why their customers are dropping out of their platform, right? So they planted Google Analytics in their platform, in their e-commerce platform, and they analyzed their trade. They tracked the whole journey of a user, right? And then they analyze, okay, the difficult points the user is facing to complete the transaction. So same theory can be applied in your games as well. You can see, okay, the number of users who are completing your levels and the places they are dropping out and the places they are finding difficulty in completing. And then based on that, you can improve whatever the experience, and you all can make sure that you all deliver the best output from the platform. So that sorts of things can be done along with Google Analytics, along with the Firebase integration. So not only for Unity, there are a lot of library supports. You can see there's something called and Firebase to your game, right? So you can see even for C++, they have native support. So even if you're using any other, framework or any other game development tool, they have support for C++ and native support for Unity as well. But let's say if you're using any other third party platform, any other third party game engine, they have a REST API that you all can interact with any game, with whatever the game engine you all name it. That sort of capabilities are provided with the Firebase protocol. So yeah, let's see. All right. So Next thing is about advanced analytics and funnels and audiences, right? So now let's imagine this scenario. Let's say you want to you're building a game, and by the time you publish it, and by the time it gets some sort of engagement, you see some players who are not playing it back, right? So some players are not playing it for a week, and sometimes they have dropped out of your game for some reasons. Maybe they found it boring, right? But you might have seen, okay, especially when it comes to mobile application, mobile games, you might have gotten notification saying, okay, we are missing you out, and why didn't you check the platform out, right? Things like that. You might have gotten notifications like that also, right? So in that sort of scenarios, we should be able to re-engage the users, and we should filter out the people who are not playing the game, the people who are dropping out of your game, and we should actually think about, okay, how do we get them re-engaged, right? So Firebase has something called funnels, not funnels, sorry. Google Analytics has something called funnels, so which we can easily track the user's behavior, and we can set a filter to find out, okay, who are the people who are not engaged, right? So every single event, so I recommend capturing every single event of your game, even even skin purchase, even for point purchase. I prefer capturing every single event of your game. So then you can make sure that in the way that you want it, you can filter out the audience, and you can capture the exact audience, and you can send them targeted notifications, and sometimes you can even send target advertisements. Things like that can be done to re-engage them back with your game, to make sure that you are doing the process correctly. So let me show you that also. So Google Analytics has something called data funnels. This is what it is. Basically, they have something called data API. So with this, you can actually see for an example, you can set a filter, right? You can see first open, and let me show you. Yeah. So as you can see, you can even capture events such as first open, and you can filter by multiple parameters, right? It's not only particular set of parameters. You can define whatever the parameters, set of parameters you wanted, and based on that, you can filter the audience that you wanted, right? And then right after that, you can use a service like have you heard about the service called FCM? There's something called Google Firebase Cloud Messaging. It's a really great framework. It's a really great tool that you all can send notifications out of to all your audiences. So so to the funnel audience, you can send notifications saying that, okay, you need to replay. Okay, maybe you can even offer like a discount kind of thing if you're providing any sort of add-ons or in-app purchases. So you all can make sure that you all provide those sort of discounts, or any sort of like tips and tricks, maybe guidance, or like engaging stuff like that. So you can send us notifications. So these notifications include both text and images also. So you can send whatever, even if it's a banner, even if it's a text, you can send it. So apart from this, we have another service called One Signal, which is a really great platform for you to engage your customers back, engage your players back. It's underlying, it's using the FCM, the Google Cloud FCM, the Firebase Cloud Messaging as underlying layer. This is also a pretty good framework for you all to send notifications to the people, but this doesn't have any sort of integration with analytics, right? So you can't actually link between analytics and One Signal, because these are like two segregated services. But if you use the FCM service along with analytics, Google Analytics, you can straight away go ahead and do whatever I mentioned to engage the audience who are lagging behind, and to re-engage them with the process. You all can easily do that along with the FCM service and Google Analytics services, basically. So these are the two services. We have analytics and One Signal, and then we have the Firebase Cloud Messaging Service, which is a really great framework, a great platform for you to re-engage the users who are lagging behind, and also to send promotions, maybe to get them re-engaged. So yeah, right. So before I move forward, can I see if you all have any questions so far? So for nothing. So don't be shy, guys. You all can maybe even unmute your mic and speak as well. And yeah. Right. Okay. So let's move forward. Right. So next thing is that Firebase, right? So now in nutshell, we looked at different services we have in Firebase. I mean, in very nutshell, we looked at analytics and FCM. But let's see what sort of other services we have in terms of Firebase. So earlier we discussed about the GC platform, about multiple services in terms of storage, like memory store and data store and cloud storage. But I'm pretty sure that the beginners who are here might be finding it difficult to understand certain concepts in terms of Kubernetes and in terms of the cloud platform, because it's a very deep topic to go into, to dive into. But I'm pretty sure the beginners who are here for finding easy to work with platforms such as Firebase, because it's a very user-friendly platform and it's a very beginner-friendly platform as well, where you can easily build applications targeting multiple frameworks and multiple platforms, and that has multiple services basically. So especially for games, we have multiple services. So have you all heard about something called Cloud Firestore? Anyone? Can I see a raise of hands? Right. Okay. One person. Two. Right. Okay. So like somewhere around five people anyway. But anyway, let me keep this straight. Right. One thing that I can mention is that so earlier we discussed about the Agons framework and the Open Saves framework, right? Those are actually targeting like a very large scale user base, right? So let's say if you're building a massive scale game, then those are useful. But right now we might have audience here who are building like very basic level games, and where maybe like few people can try it out, right? So in this sort of scenario, is it really practical to go into that sort of Agons framework or like clouds open saves or something like that? Because those can be very complicated and sometimes it requires like a very advanced level of development effort to get it done. So let me quickly show you some interesting database types we have in Firebase. We have something called Cloud Firestore actually. So Cloud Firestore is a really great database type that you all can use. So especially for capturing users real-time information, right? So we had earlier we mentioned about the cloud open saves, but the Cloud Firestore is one of the greatest framework I can mention that you all can easily use to capture users information and store the information and even interact with multiple players. So those sort of things are possible. So as you can see in Firestore, in Firebase, there's an option called build. So under build, you can see there's an option called Firestore database. So under the Firestore database, you can actually create a collection of users or even a collection of their positions or maybe different other data points. It's a real-time database actually, right? It's 100% real-time, and it works as a document database. Document means, okay, you have the collection and then you have the document and then you have the data, right? So collection means, okay, if you're storing users information, yeah, it can be known as users collection. If you're storing any sort of skins or something like that, you can call it skins. If you're storing any sort of in-app purchases, you can call it as in-app purchases. So whatever the data point that you want to say, you can name it as a collection and a document over here. So that sort of things can be done along with Firebase. So that's the Firestore database. And also we have something called Firebase real-time database. This is also a really interesting database type I have found on top of Firestore, especially for the people who are not doing any sort of let's say relational data. Firebase real-time DB is actually a very pretty fast database that you all can use to store real-time information, especially when it comes to let's say positions let's say activities, things like that, this can be used to store your information in real time. So that sort of possibilities are there. It's more like a non-relational database that you all can use to build these sort of applications, and it's almost real time and it's very efficient as well, that you all can build your games with these. So here, by clicking on create database, you can actually spin up a new database, a real-time database, and you can give the region and start in test mode if you want to like test the databases. So you can start in test mode, then you can just spin up a database and you can try out, okay, how things can be done very easily. And you can make sure that, okay, you build the perfect database and it's being utilized in multiple platform. So like I mentioned earlier, Firebase supports these popular frameworks, popular even Unity, C++, even C Sharp, they have libraries, so feel free to use it, and they have the cross-platform support. And even for something which is not mentioned here, you can use it via the REST API. So that sort of capabilities are provided along with Firebase. Right. So anyway, let's go back to the presentation. And as you can see, we have given a sample scenario. Okay, let's say you are building a live scoreboard, a live leaderboard that updates all players as soon as there's a high score is set, right? So in this sort of scenario, okay, how do you make sure the leaderboard scores are being updated? So for this sort of a scenario, you can of course use the Firestore collection and even the Firebase real-time database, either Firestore or real-time database. Anything can be used for this sort of scenario to make sure, okay, you're passing the player's information to the Firebase database, and then with the retriever, you can just show them, okay, these are the scores that you have, and the leaderboard and their positions and every single thing can be displayed over here by using the Firestore database. So as you can see, if you want to have a look at the technical reference, I'll share this presentation with the organizing committee at the end. Then I have given the technical references for each of this product, and then you all can try it out. So yeah. Anyway, now let's think about an architecture like this. So we discussed about multiple products now. We discussed about multiple Google products for game developers, especially for backend stuff and storage and Firebase, analytics, and multiple other areas. So now let's see what sort of overall architecture we can build by using all of these services. So as you can see, these are like a proper scalable architecture of a multiplayer game, right? So as you can see, we have the players over here, and then we have databases, multiple databases. So as you can see, this is using Firebase database. And then we have matchmaker service. See, initially the user can be registered to the platform. And whenever they do that, let's say, imagine a game like 8-ball pool, or maybe like a shooter game, right? First person shooter game, right? So whenever they join the application, there has to be a matchmaker algorithm, right? So the matchmaker algorithm can be deployed as a service on top of Kubernetes, on top of GCP also. And then using the Agons backend, you can actually set up the entire game server to capture their real-time positions, activities, or things like that. And one thing is that some people might be finding, okay, so we have Firebase real-time database and we have Agons. So why do you use Agons if we can get it done in Firebase? It's a very legit question we have. So the main reason is that still, even though we have Firebase for a purpose like that, it might not be the most ideal choice. You know why? Firebase is the latency. Latency means, okay, sometimes information can be delayed. Sometimes information can have a latency of 1 second, 2 second, right? So it can be a very, even though it's 1 second, 2 second, the latency can be a very massive thing when it comes to a real world game scenario. The gaming server has to be very light speed, right? So that's why we have Agons to provide you with a light speed um, gaming server backend to make sure that it's supporting multiplayer operations. So things like that. Okay. So then you have the services and you have the dedicated game server. And we are using something called Stackdriver for monitoring. Stackdriver means it's actually a monitoring service from Google. If you want to see how your resources are performing on top of the GCP platform, you can see, okay, the memory usage, CPU usage, and every single point you all can see on Stackdriver. That's a really great platform for you all to try it out. And then Here you can see there's something called authentication service. For someone who wanted to authenticate their players into platform, maybe as a Google Auth, maybe as email and password, maybe as OTP verification, whatever the verification type you wanted, you all can use Firebase authentication. So Firebase has their own really great authentication mechanism called Firebase Auth, right? So if you go here, you can see there's something called authentication. And under here, you can see there are multiple methods that are available, right? So it's not only email password, they are supporting multiple other authentication mechanisms. Login with Google, login with Facebook, even with Play Games, Game Center, Apple, GitHub, Microsoft. So any sort of social media login is supported. So I think it's one of the greatest ways to integrate the login for your application. So you don't have to worry about setting up the backend for it. Firebase will take care of it fully, right? So if you want to see the documentation, I have given the link over here as well. So yeah, I think I have missed to mention it. So it's right here. Just make a simple Google search of Firebase Auth, and it's right here. I'll share this link in the chat also. So then you all can go through it later on if you all want further reference to understand how you can log in users with multiple frameworks such as multiple social such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, Game Center, or Play Games or anything like that. They have the support basically. So like as you can see, they support Unity also, and even Unreal Engine, whatever the framework you all use, regardless of the boundaries, you all can use it to authenticate the users with ease of use. All right, so shall we go for a round of questions just to see if there's anything that I want to address? Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Are there any questions we have? Okay, I have a question. Have any games or apps that you mean? Yes, I have developed a lot of applications. If you search my name on Google, or you will find some applications, or you can visit my website. It's Inforwaves.com. You can see the applications I have developed so far from our company, Inforwaves.com. But you can check it out there as well. And also, we recently launched another product called Articum. You can check it out later. It's articum.io. You can try it out. Yeah, definitely. I'll send it to you. Right. Any other questions we have before we move to the next segment? Right. Okay. So the next point is that, okay, so now we discussed about the Firebase, some of the use cases we have with Firebase, and real-time data with Firebase Firestore. And now let's explore another service called Cloud Functions, right? So we discussed about Agons, right? Agons is a game server, scalable game server. But apart from that, there can be people who wanted to develop backends with less number of codes, right? Sometimes without even having some sort of like very large scale cloud infrastructure, there can be people who are here who want to get their backend deployed, but to make sure it can scale up to a large audience, but we don't have budget because we know that, okay, Kubernetes can be like a very expensive product. It can be very expensive level infrastructure, but there has to be some sort of a beginner friendly approach as well. There has to be some sort of a budget friendly approach as well, where we can develop whatever the backend very easily, and deploy and to support like a scaling kind of approach also. So Firebase has another product called Cloud Functions, which is right here. So under build, you can see there's something called functions, right? So under functions, you can actually like develop your own function, like a serverless function, and deploy it over here. So see, for this example, right? Just have a look at this particular example they have given. So look at this example. You want to prevent players from cheating by modifying their device's clock to claim daily rewards and multiple times, right? That's a practical example that a lot of people might be using, and some of I know that, okay, including myself, I had done that too. So instead of having the game client to grant the reward, have the client to call a cloud function, right? So what it does is basically, let's say you are offering some sort of game rewards on daily basis. Let's say at 12 midnight, you're offering a reward on daily basis, maybe like a coin, maybe like a allowance, maybe like a skin, I don't know, you name it, whatever. So let's say if you are doing such a scenario, if you are doing it in the game levels itself, within the game itself, it can be a bit of a tricky issue. You know why? I can simply change my clock, change my time, and grant the reward for tomorrow also, right? I can do it. But see, if you go for a cloud-based approach, if you go for a cloud-based approach, such as using like cloud function kind of thing, you don't have to worry about that, right? Because the cloud function will take care of it, because cloud servers are it's synced with multiple servers. So you can't cheat a cloud server, right? Because it's synced to a very 24/7 like global the standard time zone. So because of that, you can't cheat a cloud server. So I would recommend whenever you are granting some sort of a reward, or whenever you are granting some sort of a whatever skin or something like that, you can call a cloud function and get it done. So rather than handling the logical operations within the game level, right, you can implement those sort of logical information in a cloud function, and you can deploy it over there. So let me show you how you can do it. So I have given the technical reference over here in the bottom. So let me go to that and quickly show you what sort of functionalities you can do over here. Yeah, so you can see cloud function documentation is over here. So basically you can develop cloud functions with multiple languages, including Node.js, Python, Go, Java, JavaScript, whatever the language you prefer, even C, C++, C Sharp, whatever the language you prefer, you can build the cloud function and you can deploy that on top of Firebase, right? So as you can see here, I have something called user on deleted, right? Just like that, you can build the cloud function and deploy on top of Firebase, and automatically, whenever you want to grant something, whenever you want to, like, let's say, do an operation, you can just call that, and from the backend, sorry, from the game side, and do what is the logical operation. So it's more like a logical layer that we're adding on top of, it's more like a server-side logical layer that you are adding to prevent the mobile sites, the game sites, information manipulation, things like that. So you all might have seen, right? So in a lot of games, people apply cracks to unlock certain levels, maybe to unlock certain rewards. A lot of people are applying cracks. See, if you go for a cloud-based approach, you can prevent that, right? If you have a cloud-based approach, you can prevent by cracking certain levels and cracking certain information. Things like that can be done. If you go for a cloud-based approach, that is completely possible. Okay, so we have another question. Let's see. All right. Okay, that's a good. What's the difference between Google Play Console and Google Play Services? Good question. So Play Console is actually the portal to publish your games or applications on Google Play Store. It's a portal, right? But Play Services is not a portal. It's basically like a set of multiple services. So it includes authentication, it includes databases. It's like a list of services. So if you search for Google Play Services on Google, you can see the multiple services they offer. Actually, it's not only it's not a portal that they offer. It's actually a set of services they offer from Google for developers. So as you can see here in this documentation, they have advertisements and advertising IDs, and app indexing, and ranging from multiple services. They have a lot of so many services, as you can see in this documentation. If you want to try it out, I'll send you the link so that you can see it by yourself. Right. Okay. So let me move forward. Right. Okay. So now, right now we are in the era of AI, right? We have seen, okay, we have seen so many things that are coming up. I mean, if you go to TikTok or social media, maybe Facebook, even Instagram, you can see there are a lot of AI content, right? Even AI videos with as memes. So how you can use AI, Google's AI techniques, technologies for your games, right? That's a massive field that is coming up. There's an industry called game AI, which is being emerged with the development of these large language models and with the development of generative AI. There are so many things that you can do. So let me come up with an example here, right? So in the modern days, in the recent days, I have seen games, like even 3D games, even 2D games. It doesn't matter what sort of game that is. There are possibilities that you can interact with the character. So okay, interact means okay, you can talk to the character and ask certain things. You can just give a voice command and ask certain directions to a particular location. You can just have a chatbot kind of thing to interact with the character and ask certain questions. So especially the voice commands are there, especially when it comes to characters kind of things. So the development of generative AI and the AI agents, things like that, you can build games that has AI capabilities, right? So Google has like a wide range of products specialized for AI kind of things, because they have their own large language model called Gemini. So along with Gemini, they have produced um, multiple frameworks, multiple possibilities, multiple libraries that anyone could use in their applications and make their application generate content and generate conversations, generate images or whatever. See, even the stories, right? Things like that can be done. Sometimes you might prefer a game with a personalized story for you, right? It's not always the same story that someone would prefer. But if you use some sort of AI along with Google AI technology or some sort of like it's like a AI mixed AI and game mixed kind of environment. If you have something like that, you can provide a very tailor-made experience to the user so that you can make sure that okay, it's properly being attracted to the user and it's giving the perfect personalized experience for a user without the boundaries, right? So Google has this product called Google AI Studio that you all can use. Google has this is the product. It's called Google AI Studio that you all can use, and there are so many use cases that you all can cover, including building conversational agents for games, especially not only for games, for any application. You can actually do so many things, including audio generation, speech generation, and even image generation. See, for an example, let's say if you go to speech generation, let's say if you want to generate like a speech dialogue kind of thing in real time, you can just enter the script over here and then play that dialogue, even like a multi-speaker dialogue or even a single speaker dialogue that can be done along with this tool called Google AI Studio. It's a really great platform for you all to try out. It's a beginner-friendly one also, and even it supports multiple languages. For an example, Python, JavaScript, even REST API and AppScript. It's a pretty good platform that anyone could try out, and feel free to go through it and see what sort of possibilities we have. But let me show you a couple of possibilities. So this is the speech generation capability. So you can generate like a real people sounding conversation, and you can pick your own voice as well. And like a lot of things can be done very easily with ASV. Let me show you a sample. So here I'm going to run a sample. So you can see the conversation is there, and you can just choose the model and multi-speaker and run it, right? So it takes a couple of seconds. So right after that, it's going to narrate the audio for us, and you can see like a human sounding. You can hear like a human sounding conversation. So that those kind of capabilities can be introduced to your games by using the Google Gemini and AI Studio, without spending much effort in terms of creating the sound from the scratch itself, with with narrations and with real human voices. And then you have another thing, which is the video generation. So you all might have seen the Google's VO3 model, and that has a support towards Google AI Studio. Let's say if you want to generate some sort of a storyline, some sort of a video generation, like some sort of storyline or some sort of a pre-clip or a trailer clip for your game, you can do that also. And let's say during the game also, if you want to generate a dynamic video based on the scenario, based on the player's interaction, let's say if you want to generate a dynamic scenario or dynamic visual, you can do that also. See, for an example, let's say if I give something like this, show me a picture of a majestic horse running on the beach, right? So you can just modify it as show me a video, and then let's see, give it not the image generation. Let me switch to the video generation, and then let's see what happens. Okay, under the generate media, I'm going to switch it to video, and let's say generate a video of it's going to take a couple of seconds, sometimes even, okay, code exceed, sorry. So since my code is over, but you all can feel free to use it from your end, you can use with your own product, with your own account. It's not going to happen for you. But yeah, see, look at these examples that they have given. You can see these sort of visuals are very realistic looking, and you all can try these things also. And also Google launched this latest model called Lyra. uh, it's actually like a music generation model. If you want any sort of OST kind of music, or if you want any sort of realistic music to be played in the backgrounds, Lyra API has some really good um, music composition techniques that you all can try out, and you all can just give whatever the music combination you all wanted and get it done very easily. And they have the API. See, for an example, if you go to the code segment, you can just get their codes also. They have given multiple support for code libraries, and even for multiple other sorts of frameworks and languages. So that sort of capabilities are there, along with their flagship models such as VO3 and Lyria image gen. So if you want to generate images, image gen could be the perfect one. So even it generates 3D images also, but not 3D models, but it generates 3D images also. So whatever the image you define, it has a capability to generate whatever you want. And the most important thing is that all of these things are having an API. So if you want to connect that with the application, along with the API, you can easily have the integration with Python or any other language. See, Python, JavaScript, Java, Kotlin, Swift. You can have that integration with the application. So that sort of interactions can be done along with Google AI Studio. Right? Are there any questions before we move forward? Yes, we have another question. Is it free? Can you send me the link? Yes, it has a allowance actually. They have a free allowance, but it's expiring at some level. But if you all link the card, you all can exceed that uh, limitation also. But there's a free allowance that you all can try out for some certain number of requests. But uh, even if you have the card linked, you can go for a paid model. So yeah, that can be done. All right. So yes. See, the same example, going back to whatever I mentioned earlier, Gemini for game AI and intelligent agents. See, for an example, they have given a scenario saying, okay, you want a detective NPC in a mystery game to be able to answer the player questions about the case, even questions you didn't anticipate, right? So sometimes let's say, okay, you're building something like a detective game, and then you should be able to interact with the detectives or the players or whatever the people the characters who are involved. I mean, let's say if you want to have some sort of a conversational AI kind of thing, you can build that by using Gemini. So let's say I know that all of you are game developers here, but the industry for AI is rapidly growing, especially for even for games. It's revolutionizing the entire gaming landscape. So especially when it comes to the agentic kind of games, there are games that you can interact with their characters, right? So I would say rather than looking at a very generic scope of developing games, I would say look at the bigger picture. Look at how you can build games that you can actually interact with. Look at how you can build games that you can actually work, actually interact as a human in a conversational AI based, not to make it feel like a game, right? Always make it feel like a real world simulation that we're in, right? So that thing can be done along with the development of AI. So that's what sorts of possibilities are there with Google's Gemini and AI Studio and the AI platform, basically. Right. So are there any questions so far? I think I'm getting the questions from the same person. That's great to see that. Great to see a lot of questions coming from that person. Thank you very much for the questions. Are there any questions from the audience? Feel free to drop your questions so I can just answer on the way. Yeah. Okay, so the next point is that earning money, right? So why are we developing a game, right? It's not only for our fun, right? There has to be an objective. So the objective has to be making money, right? So how do you make money out of your game? So Google has this product called Google AdMob, where you can, so Google has two advertising platforms. They have something called AdSense for web-based advertising, even for YouTube advertising, even for search advertisements. They have something called AdSense. But targeting mobile applications, they have something called AdMob, where you can display advertisements in games. So you might have seen, right, especially in some games when you're purchasing points, they show you advertisement and then only you can get the free points, right? The free points are actually not free, but you're paying something in a different form, but not in cash, not in points or not in like something else, but you're paying the free points in a different form, but the form is the advertisement. But if you want to display these sort of advertisements in your games, what you can do is Google has this amazing product called Google AdMob that you all can use to build, and you all can make money out of it, and they're paying like a massive amount for a view. So you can just try it out and you all can make money. And there are some people, there are even 15-year-olds in USA who are making like millions of dollars per month by making small arcade games, right? So just feel free to use it and see the impact you all can do. Let's say if you all get like a very large user base, definitely AdMob can be a very uh, revenue generating way to make money, and they are paying you a lot in dollars. So it's a great platform for you to get things started and to make money out of your game. It's a massive, amazing platform that you can try out. And once you sign up, you will get a dashboard like this. So you can see your earnings over here, and you can even register applications. You can add AdMob to your applications, and you can display advertisements in multiple ways. So that could be like a full screen video ad, that could be like a banner ad, that could be like a clickable ad, right? There are multiple types of advertisements you can see. So let me show you some of the ad types we have with AdMob. These are the types actually. See, there's something called banner ads. There's something called interstitial. It's like a full page advertisements, right? You might have seen these sort of ads in multiple games and applications. And there's something called rewarded advertisements. So this is the most common type being used in games actually. So you might have seen, okay, the moment you want to redeem the point, you can see a video ad that is coming up, and then in the corner you can see there's something called skip, and once you click on skip, it skips the advertisement, and then at the end you get the points. But this is the most common advertisement type. So there's something called rewarded interstitial, and there's something called rewarded, right? There are two types of rewards basically. So if you want to grant some points or something like that, you can use either one of these advertisement types to make money out of it. And then you have banner ads and interstitial ads. Basically, these are the common ads in applications, but not in games, because in games we don't really see banner advertisements and interstitial advertisements, but we always see rewarded and these two types of advertisements. We always see that. So what I can recommend is that, okay, so as you can see, the example we have given here, a player runs out of moves in a puzzle game. Offer them a choice. Either spend the premium currency or continue to watch a rewarded ad for free. This provides a non-player pathway to continue, okay, improving the retention while still generating revenue, right? They see a way to skip the level and to go to the next level, and then still you are making money out of it as well. So it's a good model to keep the user engaged, and it's not being annoying the user as well, because you know why? Okay, because it's their choice, right? It's their choice to see the advertisement. So when you're placing advertisements, make sure you place it in a way that it does not annoy the user. Because I have seen applications and games, whenever you play, the player gets annoyed a lot. So that's not a good way of placing advertisements. So when you're placing advertisement, make sure you get their consent, and along with their consent, you show whatever the banner ad or the full screen ad, then you are sorted, right? Because they are seeing that on their choice, right? So in the same time, you are generating revenue also, then there's a high potential where you can make money out of it. Right. So the next interesting point is that, okay, another question. Okay, the next question, I don't want to answer the next question because I feel like it's like bit unethical to answer. So I want to skip the next question. Right. Okay. So the next question, the next segment is that in-app purchases. So you all might have seen, especially when it comes to purchasing skins, purchasing like cars, premium cars in racing games, kind of things, and weapons in shooting games, right? You might have seen there's something called in-app purchases, right? You pay amount and you get whatever the item, whatever the service. For an example, we have two things. We have something called consumables. Consumable means, for an example, let's say the in-game currency, or maybe it can be points. It can be, points or in-game currency can be known as a consumable, where you can spend it throughout the whole game. And then we have something called non-consumables. For an example, let's say you're paying an amount to remove some advertisements or to unlock a character, right? So that can be known as a non-consumable, basically. So we have two types of currency. So three types of billings available: consumable, non-consumable, and the subscriptions. So consumable means, okay, you're spending the amount, spending the balance as currency. That's consumable. And then you have non-consumable, more like a one-time thing, one-off thing. You are paying an amount to remove advertisements, to get a character, something like that. And then you have subscriptions. So you might have seen, okay, you're paying a monthly amount to return, like to be in a particular level or to be in a certain stage. You're paying a subscription on monthly basis. So these are three types we have in terms of billing, right? So Google Play has something called Play Billing that you all can use to, generate revenue. Let me show you the reference which is there. So Play Billing is an interesting toolkit that you all can use to charge the user and to make money without advertisements. So even there are certain games who are without advertisement, but still they're making money out of it. This is another way of making revenue, right? It's not always advertisements that you can use to make money, but using this sort of technique, you can actually build the user on a monthly basis, or even on, like I mentioned, consumable or non-consumable or subscription basis. We can just build the user and make money out of the platform. And then this is a really great thing. The Google Play billing can be used, so you can easily pay the amount with your credit card or debit card, and then the developer gets money to their bank account. So that can be done from this end. And also there's another there's another platform called Revenue Cat that you all can use. So if you feel like play billing is a bit difficult, sometimes there can be technical complexities and technical difficulties that some of you all might face when integrating Google Play billing. There's another platform called Revenue Cat that you all can use to easily implement subscriptions to your application. So regardless of whatever the platform you're using, whether if it's iOS game or a Android game or a Unity game, you all can use this thing called Revenue Cat to charge your user on a subscription basis or even consumer basis. You all can do it basically, right? So as you can see, it's being utilized by multiple companies, even 50,000 plus applications. So you can use this for multiple scenarios. If you feel like play billing is difficult, you can use this to make money out of it. right? So you can see these are the examples I have given for consumable and non-consumable. As you can see, the unlock pro version, and for subscription, we can have like a monthly basis. You are paying a small amount on monthly basis, and then you are making money. So that kind of thing can be done. So these are the two examples I can provide for consumable and non-consumable and subscriptions. So any sort of mechanism can be used to make money out of applications. Either you can use advertisements to make some revenue. So those things are possible along with AdMob and play bidding. And finally, so we are in the very final segment of the workshop. So so now let's say we are done with the whole application. We have the backend, we have the database, we have ads, we have billing, and we need to have everything what we need to have to launch the application, right? And how do we go live? Google Play Store is the place to be, right? Because you can see that, right? For an example, if you go to Play Store, they have something called Play Games, right? So here you can see all the games are in single place, which is downloadable, right? So how do you list your game in this particular platform? So Google Play Store has something called Play Console, right? So if you want to list your game in Play Store, there's something called Google Play Console. You can just search for it and you will see something like this, right? You will see something like this. You have to pay a fee of $25 per, for lifetime. As in, like, it's a one-time fee, 25 USD. It's a one-time fee you have to pay, and then you can create this account. And you can easily go through the process, and you can fill the information, and you can list your application on Play Store, and any user can come to Play Store game section, and they can download your application from here, from Google Play Store. They can easily search your game, and you can download basically. So it's not only for Android. If you are looking at iOS games also, you can check out the Apple app, iOS App Connect. So they have another portal where you can list your application on top of the iOS App Store also. So either Google Play Store or even Apple App Store, you can list your application. But Apple is charging somewhere around 99 USD per year. But Google is charging you 25 USD for lifetime. Apple is charging you somewhere around 99 USD per year. But there are some advantages and disadvantages both, right? So you all have to decide, okay, which platform are you going to go ahead with, whether if it's single platform or a multi-platform or even both. So it's up to you all to decide the best platform to move forward with. So yeah, so when it comes to releasing applications, there are multiple stages on Google Play Store. There's something called internal testing, and there's something called closed testing and open testing. So you can't straight away, let's say I develop the game, and I can't just go to Play Store and release application straight away, right? There has to be a mechanism, right? So because they don't really approve applications without testing. So Google wants to make sure your application has the best quality without bugs and has the maximum safety, and they want to guarantee that. And there's a review process actually, right? So you can, let's say if you release a game with bugs and a lot of issues, what happens is you will get a lot of bad reviews, and then you have a bad reputation, and no one will be able to like recommend the game to someone else to play, right? If you see like bad reviews kind of things, no one is going to use it actually. So if you have this particular testing process properly, then you can make sure you are releasing a quality product at the end of the day, and where the users can use it, and where the users can interact with your game and get the best maximum experience. So they have three phases of testing. There's something called internal testing. The moment you release the application, make sure you put your own team for testing actually, right? So in Google Play Store, once you upload the application to Google Play Store, there's a process called internal testing. Then you can add their own email addresses, and you can then you can test the application with a closed test with a small set of users, right? Maybe your internal team, maybe your trusted friends, maybe your peers, right? So what are the people you can easily do a very small kind of testing, internal testing in this track. And then we have something called closed testing. So let's say you're trying out with a larger group, maybe with a university friends, maybe with a classroom, maybe with a university, things like that. If you are doing that, you can use close testing to test the large group before you release. And then you have the open testing, which is known as alpha testing, basically. So you might have seen alpha testing games also, where anyone can opt in and test publicly, right? Let's say even if I want to test a game which is being developed, I have the capability of doing that. If it's open, if it's in open testing, right? So I would say go in the process, don't skip the shortcuts. Always go in the process to make sure you are delivering the best quality, because Google is very concerned about the quality nowadays, and they don't want like low quality apps to go in their Play Store. So you have to make sure that your application is 100% bug free and 100% perfect when you're going live on Play Store and other stores, basically. Right. So to conclude the session, I want to like go through the summary. So we discussed about multiple frameworks. We discussed about the Google's backend frameworks, and then we discussed Firebase and analytics and Gemini on how you can use AI to enhance the game's experience. And we also discussed about AdMob and Google Play Billing to make sure you charge an amount from the user and to make money. And also we discussed about Play Console to publish your game. So those are the things we can actually refer to make your game experience better with Google technologies. And yeah, so I'll share this slide deck with all of you. So from the OC, you all can actually get it. And thanks a lot for joining. If you all have any questions, you all can reach out to me on social media, any social media. And also if there's any questions, you all can drop here. If there's no other questions, you all can feel free to reach out to me on social media later as well. So yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. That brings us to the end of today's session. We thank you once again to Suresh for sharing his expertise and giving us such an insightful look into the world of Google developer technologies. We truly appreciate the time and effort you have taken to be part of EXE 2025. And of course, thank you to everyone who joined us today. We hope this session gave you valuable takeaways and inspiration to carry forward. That's all from EXE 2025. So today we'll see you again in upcoming events. Until then, stay inspired and keep pushing boundaries. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.